Hello, good afternoon. This is the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi. We are on Love 99.5 FM, over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on Ganga FM in Jirapa. We are on Radio Y in Wa, Kaleo FM in Akachi, KTU Radio in Koforidua, and Kekeli Radio in Ho. We are on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook and my Joy Online interactive app. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, 2 out of every 3 females in Ghana are unemployed. That's the latest annual household income and expenditure survey released by the Ghana Statistical Service, which pegged the unemployment figure in Ghana at 1.7 million people.
At any point in time, 1.7 million persons are unemployed in Ghana. These are predominantly female, specifically 2 out of every 3.
We'll also hear all about the gloom for the youth in the country.
About a fifth of our youth are not doing any of these. 15 to 35, they are not in employment, they are not in education, and they are not in training. We call it the NEET.
Also this afternoon, 5 years after license of Gold Coast Fund Management was revoked by the Securities and Exchange Commission, customers with locked up funds say they have still not been paid.
You see today, police all over, dressed up like a war. This is terrible country.
My husband is a retiree and he suffered stroke after this whole, what do you call it, DDP, whatever.
I'll take you live to where the group is picketing the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission shortly. And also, Ghana drops 2 places on latest press freedom ranking as Reporters Without Borders cite poor working conditions of journalists, arbitrary arrest of pressmen as the key factors in Ghana's declining score.
We cannot forget Ahmed Swali. Over 4 years after his gruesome murder, we continue to seek justice for him by putting pressure on the authorities concerned to up their game.
We'll get to hear from the Ghana Journalists Association on this. Also in sports,
we'll hear from a sprint coach on why Ghana could end up not having a home-based athlete qualify for the upcoming World Athletics Championships.
And brace yourself for a new research finding that is linking oral sex to throat cancer.
It was found out that this same virus that they found in the neck of the womb, the cervix of the uterus, the same virus can be implicated in the throat. And basically they found the telltale signs there.
I bet you stay for details of this and more here on the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. And this afternoon, 2 out of every 3 females in Ghana are unemployed. That's the findings of the annual household income and expenditure survey released by the Ghana Statistical Service covering the period 2022. In all, over 1.7 million Ghanaians are unemployed, with some unable to find jobs, unable to find food to eat, and are also multidimensionally poor. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnini, who reviewed the findings of the survey, said the outcome should help policymakers make informed decisions to address this key problem.
At any point in time, 1.7 million persons are unemployed in Ghana. These are predominantly female, specifically 2 out of every 3. For the first time, we've given out the unemployment spell in Ghana, and close to 160,000 persons have consistently remained unemployed in the first 3 quarters of 2022. As we indicated, at any point in time, we have 11 million people who are unemployed. But if you really want to find out those who are employed, if you want to find out those who are consistently employed, you get 7.5 million. What this tells us that 3.5 million people that ordinarily will say they are employed would always move in and out of employment, making them very vulnerable. Our status for vulnerable employment has not changed. Since 2013, 10 years on, we still have 2 out of every 3 persons who are unemployed. And if you trace why people become unemployed, you find out that about 2/3 of them are those who are in vulnerable employment. We really need to get out of the informal status that we find ourselves, because on the average, it's contributing about 5 times more to unemployment than formal employment.
Well, for the youth in particular, the outcome is disturbing, with a sizable number of them not in school, not in training, and also unemployed.
Our youth that are not doing the 3 things that we expect them to do. We expect our youth to either be in school, education, training, or employment. And about a fifth of our youth are not doing any of these. 15 to 35 years. They are not in employment, they are not in education, and they are not in training. We call it the NEET. Not in education, not in employment, and not in training. Honorable Deputy Minister, our goal at Statistical Service is to point policymakers to what we think or how we think they need to target these issues. So it is not just the fact that we put out a statistics that about a quarter of our youth are unemployed. We're providing further information on where you can maximize your gains.
That's the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobene earlier today. Let me bring in our in-house data analyst and a member of our research desk, Kofi Ejayminta, joining us in the studios. So what more does the survey report, Kofi?
Right, so the headline unemployment rate now is 13.4%, and the informal sector contributes about 5 times more to unemployment than the formal sector. Now, on youth unemployment, about a quarter of the Ghanaian youth are unemployed. Now, Emefa, this means that we analyze the data and we've seen that youth unemployment rate has moved from 19.7 in 2021 to 25% in the third quarter of 2022. So in less than 2 years, youth unemployment has increased by more than 5 percentage points, or in other words, by more than 26%.
That's rather disturbing. Thank you so much for joining us, Kofi J. There. Now let's head out to the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission, because the aggrieved customers of collapsed Gold Coast Fund Management Company say they've given the SEC a 3-day ultimatum to pay up their locked-up funds. The defunct company, which operated under the registered name Black Shield Capital Limited, had over 55,000 customers whose funds were locked up before the regulator revoked its license. According to convener of the group, Charles Nyame, their members will do everything legally possible to make sure their monies are paid them. We'll have more on him shortly, but first listen to some of the customers of the defunct company.
In our satisfaction, not for the government. And government cannot, never, in any way, government cannot take any decision that is for their own benefit. It should be the benefit of the citizens. And you see today, police all over, dressed up like a war. This is a terrible country. This is a useless country that we are in. And I'm telling you, some of us, we are ready to face anybody who actually will fight us. Useless. Useless. Thank you very much.
That amount of money, the same 40 million, went beyond 800 plus as of December last year. So even the 220 which I have is nothing. At the end of the day, the government came in, we did some regularization, and I was given 50,000 Ghana cedi, and that was the end.
Now, speaking to joinees on day one of the group's 3-day picketing at the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Nyame, who is leading the group, called on the government and the Ministry of Finance to investigate the matter.
This condition is killing people. Yes. All people are dying. Yes. And Mr. Adunfe says that there's nothing they can do about the death of the pensioners. Pensioners who have worked hard, served this nation with their sweat and blood. They have made their monies. They have put it down for their future use. And if a government policy, this company did not collapse by itself. Gold Coast Fund Management Company was solvent until a Kufuor government touched it with the financial cleanup exercise. And this is a policy by government which was preluded with a lot of assurances from the government that he is doing this exercise to protect we the depositors.
Well, let me take you live now to the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission, where my colleague James Ishen of Joy Business joins us live. James, so this is day 2. How different is it from day 1? Have they been spoken to? Do any sign of when their monies will be paid them?
Well, Emefa, the situation hasn't been different after day one of this particular ticketing year. They are still converged at the premises of the Security and Exchange Commission. According to them, they claim the Securities and Exchange Commission seems to be indifferent in addressing their concerns. And I'm also being told that there is some sort of mistrust on the side of the Securities and Exchange Commission, as well as the Finance Ministry, after 5 years of having their funds locked up due to the financial sector cleanup. Also, I'm told by their convener that the Securities and Exchange Commission has misled government, indicating that most of these depositors who had their monies locked up have been paid. But if we may recall, in 2020, President Akufo-Addo said all depositors whose monies were locked up due to the financial sector cleanup has been paid. But unfortunately, they are telling me none of their 55,000 members have had even a single payment being paid into their account. So that's the development we're having here at the Security and Exchange Commission's premises.
Okay. I know that James, Joy Business and yourself, you've been trying to reach the Securities and Exchange Commission. Do we have any response from them yet on this particular issue?
Well, so I've been here for almost 3 hours now. We've been trying to reach out to any staff of the Securities and Exchange Commission, but it appears all attempts to reach out to them are proved futile. They are not ready to have any engagement with the media as well as the members over here. Yesterday, the group actually had a meeting with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but unfortunately they couldn't meet Reverend Ogbami Tete. I understand they met some of the staff, but not Reverend Ogbami Tete. So it appears none attempts to reach out to these staff or any member from the Securities and Exchange Commission have actually proved futile.
Okay, thank you very much. That's James Ishen of Joy Business Desk. Now back to the studio. Ghana has dropped 2 places in the latest Press Freedom Index, moving from 60th position in 2022 to 62nd in 2023 out of 180 countries. Ghana has been witnessing a sustained decline in the Press Freedom rankings for a number of years. That's since 2010. According to Reporters Without Borders, Ghana's decline in this year's ranking is mainly attributable to arrest of some 3 journalists in 2022, declaring that journalist safety has seriously deteriorated over the years. Reporters Without Borders also cites the poor working conditions of journalists as a factor. My colleague Kweku Asante has been looking through that report, joins me in studio with details. Kweku, how does Ghana fare in all the indicators used to compute this ranking?
So, if I start with the political indicator, Ghana is 63 out of 180 countries, scoring 61.88%. The economic indicator is a bit strong. Ghana is 80 out of 180 countries, scoring 47.94%. The social indicator is 47, and Ghana is scoring 78.98. And where Ghana is faring very badly is the security indicator, where Ghana is scoring 103rd position out of 180 countries, scoring 61.25%.
So you've been giving us a bit about the political indicators, but let's get into the legal and the economic context as well. What are the details?
So if you look at the legal framework, for instance, they talk about the right to information law, which is expected to have helped journalists to get information. They say that journalists are not getting that information. If you look at the economic context, it says that most media outlets face financial problems reflected in low salaries and poor working conditions for journalists. New newspapers are often launched only to fold within months, and that state-owned media, on the other hand, are awarded government advertising contracts and are paid for publishing news items. They talk about how journalists are poorly paid.
Okay, thank you very much, Kweku Asante. The details of that report on myjoyonline.com. And we know that Press Freedom Day, a commemoration, is 30 years today, and the Ghana Journalists Association have been commemorating it at the Accra International Press Center. We can hear from former GJA President Gifty Afenyi-Daze, who is charging the media to take its role seriously in highlighting nagging national issues, including illegal mining, corruption, and incompetence.
It is relevant to remind ourselves that based on the happenings we know now, the agenda to stop Galamsey should be treated as a major existential threat that should go beyond the coalition that first highlighted the menace. I believe all media houses should continually highlight the challenges until the menace is brought to a minimum. In terms of our developmental challenges, it is my expectation that the Ghanaian media shall develop a strong interest in economic management of our dear nation.
Well, the National Media Commission Board Chair, Dr. Yaobwedu Ayabuafo, asked journalists to remain responsible and find better means of verifying stories.
Cleansing and the mother of all those things, then it means that we did not think about what we said. And so we have a responsibility to weigh the consequences of everything that we speak. But first and foremost, no one should stop us from expressing our views about anything. Now, I want to conclude on this, that, in recent times, a number of cases have come before the National Media Commission. And there's one trend. And the trend is that the excuse of the media, which we do not consider to be justifiable, is that when we call the person, he didn't speak. The mere fact that you called me and I did not speak does not commit me to a liability or a guilt. And we have a court of appeal judge here. Now, Article 19, Clause 10 of the 1982 Constitution expressly states that even when you are standing trial for a criminal offense, you can refuse to answer any question put to you by the judge. And the judge cannot, solely on the basis of the fact that you did not respond, convict you.
Let me take you live to the International Press Center where my colleague James Saveji is joining us. Well, James, the GJA president has also been speaking about the murder of Ahmed Swale and a number of issues affecting the media. Let's go through it.
Yes, Emefa. So he started by recounting the barring of Radio Adan from covering the Asafotufiam festival last year and the arrest of another journalist of Radio Adan over allegedly publishing false information on social media. All of this, he said, are threats to press freedom in Ghana. Then he revealed that 5 years after the murder of Ahmed Swale, the docket on investigations into his murder is yet to be presented to the Attorney General.
Madam Chairperson, being proactive is essential if we are to protect the right to free expression. And I must say that the GJA has been very proactive in recent years with regard to defending this right. We also caution media outlets when necessary. All of us are witnesses to how we managed Radio Adan versus the Adan Traditional Council when a reporter from that station was banned from participating in activities. We are not suggesting that journalists are beyond reproach or that we are flawless. No, as stated previously, there are several remedies available to those who believe they have been treated unjustly by the media, and they can always utilize them. Madam Chairperson, on this day, we cannot forget Ahmed Swale. Over 4 years after his gruesome murder, we continue to seek justice for him by putting pressure on the authorities concerned to up their game.
That's GJA President Albert Kwabna Jumfor there. I'll take you now to the court, and the Apex Court has ruled that the receiver of defunct Unibank, Ni Amano Dodu, can testify in the criminal trial of the bank's founder, Dr. Kwabna Dufo, and other officials. Mr. Dodu is the state's first witness in the trial, but lawyers for Dr. Dufo urged the court not to allow Mr. Dodu to testify. The lawyers explained that he was appointed as receiver of Unibank after being a partner of KPMG, which audited the accounts of the bank, but the state opposed the objection. The Director of Public Prosecution, Yvonne Atakra Obuobisa, insisted the witness meets the requirement of law allowing him to testify. The position has been upheld by the court, and legal affairs correspondent Joseph Akable was in court for us, joins us in studio with more. Joseph, first, run us through the panel that heard this case, how they voted, and the reason behind this decision.
And so Justice Paul Bafuboni was the presiding judge. The other members, Justice Gabriel Puamine, Amadou Tanko, Professor Mensa Bonsu, and Justice Samuel Esiedu. In terms of the two that dissented, they were Justice Puamine and Amadou Tanko, the remaining three forming the majority that came to that conclusion. The issue that was before the court in terms of the argument was that the AG had insisted that per Section 59 of the Evidence Act, it explains who is qualified to testify. This includes someone who is capable of coherent expression so as to be understood directly or through interpretation by another person who can understand that person, and that the person understands the duty of the witness to tell the truth. And so this is what was affirmed by the High Court, affirmed affirmed by the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court by 3-2 decision is saying that Nia Amandodo can go on to testify against Dr. Kwabena Dufo.
Okay, well, I have a story about Dr. Kwabena Dufo that I'll focus on shortly. But Joseph, there's another decision from the court. We know it's dismissed the case challenging government's decision to permit MMDCs to remain in office in an acting capacity. Let's talk about it.
You recall, following President Akufo-Addo taking office for his second term, he did indicate that even before he was going to appoint substantive municipal district chief executives, he had asked that the ones who had served the first term should remain in office in an acting capacity pending the appointment of substantive ones. Roxy Nelson Dafiamakpo took the matter to court, insisting that that was contrary to law. The Supreme Court has dismissed that particular case. The court has deferred its reasoning to a later date, but his lawyer Nick Papo Samuado says it's unfortunate, but he's looking forward to the reasons to understand what should happen going forward.
We will still have to wait to get the decision. I understand we can apply for it today, so we definitely need to have a full understanding of the decision, because the case was about whether the president could appoint acting DCs. Normally the practice has been that when the tenure of office of the DCs is over and it coincides with the commencement of the new term of any president, the normal thing is for the president to say he's fired the DCs and then ask them to act if they are normally in the same party for a period of time. And we felt that was not in conformity with the constitutional requirements that had a specific procedure for how a DC should be appointed, which will require nomination and an election in the district assembly.
That's Papo Samuado, lawyer for Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo, taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News, live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM, and the Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience, also made possible by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows, and it's emerging that 2 out of every 3 females in Ghana are unemployed. That's the latest annual household income and expenditure survey released by the Ghana Statistical Service, which pegged the unemployment figure in Ghana now at 1.7 million people. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, we have sport, and then we'll have details of that new research, and that's linking oral sex to throat cancer.
It was found out that this same virus that they found in the neck of the womb, the cervix of the uterus, the same virus can be implicated in the throat. And basically they found the telltale signs there.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn, bath, chop, where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get 1 drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selenium. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe, so say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank. By Duraplast.
This is the Midday News, and it's time for sports. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Emefa. Now, Ghana's sprint coach Elom Amenato says there could be a decline in the quality of athletes in Ghana if infrastructure is not improved. Now, 6 athletes who will represent Ghana at the upcoming World Athletics Championship in Budapest are US-based, albeit qualification is still ongoing. Elom, who is also based in US in Texas, believes home-based athletes are at a disadvantage due to inadequate facilities.
I've been in America for almost 1.5 years right now. I've never seen any kind like the track we have in Ghana. I've never seen the like here. Even the high schools, the junior high school tracks are far better than our tracks in Ghana. You put a track in Ghana within 1 to 2 years, then the lane 1 becomes so black, then it's going off. The track I have in my school here, the West Texas A&M University, the track is, they said it's 16 years old. The lane 1 is the most used, but it still remains intact. There's nothing on it.
So that's Ghana's sprint coach Elom Amenato. That's your sports.
Thank you.
I hope I got the name right.
Yes,
Amenato.
Well, that's our sports. Now let's start our build-up to the NDC May 13 primaries, and it's time for the election headquarters. And NDC flag bearer hopeful Dr. Kwabena Dufo is in the spotlight today, and he says reasons for contesting the upcoming primaries is to make all Ghanaians prosperous, since he has what it takes to win the 2024 polls. The former finance minister Dr. Kwabena Dufo will on May 13 face stiff competition from frontrunner John Dramani Mahama and Kojo Bonsu. Joseph Akable of our political desk has more.
We are all hungry. We are hungry as people. There are tears in the eyes of Ghanaians everywhere. They should help me wipe the tears from the eyes of Ghanaians, soothe the pain in the hearts of Ghanaians. That requires a leader with the courage to change things, to change the status quo. That's what I will do.
The state of Ghana's economy remains a major concern to the man touted for his economic prowess. He comes into the race with a vast experience as a former governor of the Bank of Ghana and a former finance minister. He believes he can turn around the economy.
Every Ghanaian, no matter the birth of his or her circumstances, should have equal opportunity in our system to achieve whatever he or she wants to achieve. I'm not saying that. That dream will bring about prosperity and happiness.
He will face off with former President John Dramani Mahama in Kojo Bonsu. The Economist Intelligence Unit in its April 2023 country report on Ghana noted that the NDC can revitalize its prospect of electoral victory with a new candidate such as Dr. Kwabena Dufo. The former finance minister believes he stands a better chance.
I'll ask my colleagues to help me do that. No one person solves a problem. And no one person is big enough to do anything. That's why in the Bible, the Creator himself, when he was creating a man, said, let us create what? Let us. In the Bible, the Lord never said, I. No, said, let us.
And that's Dr. Kwabena Dufo in focus. We get to put the spotlight on the other candidates also as we gear up to the May 13 primaries for the NDC. It's time for Climate Focus, and this week the shea nut serves as the main source of livelihood for many rural women in northern Ghana. But poor weather is said to be affecting fruiting of shea trees in part of the Savannah region, a situation forcing some women to cut down the trees for charcoal. In this week's edition of Climate Focus, Joy News Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin visited the two settlements in Savannah region to hear the struggles of some women engaged in shea nut gathering.
For 7 years, Nafisa Wahab and Nuria Zubaida worked in Ghana's capital city, Accra, as head porters carrying luggage to fend for themselves. But they returned home when they realized that the capital city is not a suitable venue to survive as young women.
I was carrying luggage to make some income, then used the small income generated to buy things and returned home. I was hand-picking shea nuts. It was not fruiting anymore, so I had to leave for Accra.
Both in their mid-20s, they now live in their hometown called Sumpini and Kojope in the Savannah region, where everyone relied on shea fruits for survival. Like Nafisa and Nuria, almost everyone in the villages harvested ripe fruits for sale to earn an income.
I was collecting the shea nuts and making some money.
That's our climate focus for this week. The full package comes up subsequently. Now, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority says it does not intend to impound vehicles of drivers without license, as captured in a communique issued earlier. We can hear from Kafui Samevo on the Super Morning Show.
The letter that was issued, the intention is not to impound vehicles if a driver doesn't have a driver's license or have offended any of the traffic regulations. The law referred is clear and provides clarity on conditions under which a vehicle can be impounded and who can impound the vehicle. So basically the intention is to, one, find out those who do not have driver's license and are driving on the road, those who have bad licenses and are driving on the road.
Now, let's talk about your health, my health, and everyone's health. And we are told that there's a new research that is linking oral sex to throat cancer. Well, we can hear from Dr. Kenneth Bedu. He is an otolaryngologist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. He's been speaking on Prime Morning. He has all the details.
Historically, throat cancer was caused by alcohol, tobacco in all its forms, those who chew, those who sniff, those who smoke. And over the years, people have, it's been there, we manage it all right. But then it was noticed that quite an unusual crop of patients were coming in. Patients who didn't have the typical
situations of okay.
Just around that time, one Prof. Harold Hausen has made the link between sexually transmitted infection and cancer of the neck of the womb. Obviously, we had to look for a reason, and then it was found out that this same virus that they found in the neck of the womb, the cervix of the uterus. So it's more like a female disease. So the same virus can be implicated in the throat. And basically they found the telltale signs there. So obviously you don't have to do brain science to know, what they want, one and one together to give you two. In ours, we now basically anybody who comes with oropharyngeal cancer, we look for HPV in the specimen.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Receiver for defunct Unibank can testify against you. Supreme Court tells Dufo Aisha Wang forged marriage certificates for permit for witness. And that's more on myjoyonline.com. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil is up next. Have a good afternoon.